Good morning, Red Skies. This has already been a tremendous conference. I know you were here to work. That's what we're about. When I think about Red Skies and when I think about the important work you all do, a few things come to mind. First is creativity and innovation. Second is investment. The utility sector, including these three industry leaders here, are all about investment in critical infrastructure, but also think of the investment that we heard about from the incredible fire departments that stood up earlier this year, the investment in sustainable communities, the investment in first response, and the investment in the new technologies that are providing the tools for all the rest of us to do our job. Third thing I think about is partnership and community. Just as you heard about the incredible partnership between fire agencies, think of the utility industry as one that really is driven by mutual assistance, but also by shared learning, shared practices to really being the best that we possibly can be. So partnership and a sense of community. And Red Skies really has become a community. But ultimately, what I think about is really great people. These three folks, all of you, coming together to do just the most critical work that really the ability to function as a civil, vibrant society depends on. So just a word about this talented murderer's row we have here. I apologize, of course, to any Blue Jays fans. Andy, you are PGE's Vice President of Wildfire Mitigation. You're responsible for strategy, for execution, and for all the results of PG&E's wildfire mitigations activities. You've been at it since 2019. You represent PG&E on a whole range of external contacts that are so terribly important to the good work everyone does, including Cal Poly's Fire Institute. You're the utility advisor for Watch Duty, and you're also an advisor to the Red Skies Summit. And all your hard work really is paying off at PG&E, and I think for the whole industry. I asked you for some interesting facts. You've got two sons who are stand-up comedians whose tour, The Favorite Son, I don't know which one is the favorite son, just wrapped a 14-state tour. Your daughter, Ruth, did not follow you into the utility industry, but she is an entrepreneur building her own clothing line, Resewn. Larry, somebody I've been admired and really am lucky to count as a friend. You are Portland General, no ampersand, Portland General Electric's Senior Vice President of Strategery and Advanced Energy Delivery. And Larry, you have over 40 years in the industry, not just in the investor-owned side, but also at Bonneville Power Administration, which matters so much to the Pacific Northwest, at Clark Public Utilities, and at Pacific Corp. So you've seen the utility world from not just both sides, but all sides now. You serve on the advisory board for the DOE's Office of Electricity, also the Pacific Northwest National Labs, and then something I'm passionate about, the Western Transmission Consortium. Larry, you always turn your face into the wind of our most difficult challenges, and I've lost track of how many great initiatives you've helped lead in the region. Larry loves to be around the water. You can't be more around the water than over the water, as we are right now. He lives on has a floating home at the confluence of the Willamette and Columbia Rivers in Portland, Oregon, and you are looking forward to eventually, not too soon I hope, retiring in a home on Puget Sound. Larry's an old friend, Paul's a new friend, but we've been hanging together quite a bit, actually, recently. Paul's most recent business card would suggest that he is Xcel's Vice President of Wildfire Risk Management, and Paul's responsible for all wildfire risk activities across Xcel's 8-state service territory. Prior to joining Xcel, Paul held senior leadership positions in wildfire risk, both with PG&E and with SCE. Paul enjoys mountain biking, all things outdoors, actually any kind of biking, hiking, skiing. And he's also been known to perform what he refers to as vigilante, one might say unauthorized, inspections of utility infrastructure across North America, Europe, the UK, and New Zealand. Just a word about how seriously the industry takes this challenge. Monday and Tuesday, just last week, Paul and I and some other folks who were here, including Pano AI, Techno Silva, and the Ad Hoc Group, helped put on a workshop for quite a large group of Northeastern electric companies. So this is a national priority for the industry, a priority company by company, really across the country, often combined with good work on major event preparedness as well. And key throughout all of that is, yes, technology, but fundamentally tight partnerships that everyone is training for with all the first response industries. One thing to know is the importance of commitment on the ground and commitment at the top. You saw that in the discussion of the LA fires. The three CEOs for these companies at PGE, Maria Pope at PG Andy, Patty Poppy at Excel, Bob Frenzel are all committed. So there's very clear sight line. Everyone in the organization knows this is a big deal, this matters, this is a company priority, and that is absolutely key to success. Andy, let's start with you. You and PGE have literally been through the ringer, and you've come out, I think, very clearly a stronger, better company. What is your advice to companies in other areas that are maybe just starting out or certainly not as far along their journey around wildfire? And then specifically, since this is a technology discussion, if you could tell us how PG&E has used AI and machine learning in your wildfire programs, particularly around PSPS.
Thank you for that. I think, the one thing for utilities across the country with regards to the fire risk, it's something easy to try to ignore because it's another risk on your books. And our general advice on this is you can start doing the preventative work if you start seeing the risk materialize. So from a utility advice perspective, you do not want to have to go through the ringer that PG&E, that Hawaiian Electric, HECO, that Excel have gone through after fires have hit their territory. And we're seeing it play out in Southern California, Edison right now. The aspect of PSPS, Public Safety Power Shutoff, it is a dramatic option. And you turn the power off when the conditions arise, like we saw demonstrated that happened in the LA Basin. You turn it off proactively. However, that comes with a huge societal impact because people are dependent on that power. So from a technology perspective, what I'm really excited about is utilizing the existing devices we have in our system. We have 5.5 million smart meters. We're installing grid monitoring devices. Examples are GridScope from Gridware, a company supported by Convective. But also there's early fault detection. There's a whole suite of technologies that combined with machine learning really has the promise to help us prevent ignitions, but also respond really quickly when an ignition does occur. And so that's something that I'm very excited about and would really advise folks to kind of just dive into that space because that's 2 steps ahead from what we knew when we started.
So one thing that I hope we'll have time to come back and talk about, you are taking a very systematic approach to modernizing your network, much more visibility, much more ability to control. Your job is wildfire, but all of those investments, in fact, serve a whole value stack of purpose.
Yeah, they help not just on the wildfire front, they help in any weather conditions, but also they help on regular days where you have, what we consider a routine emergency, unfortunately, right? Where some very localized event hits, the ability to respond quickly to serve your community is also enhanced by these technologies.
And potentially even operating your network more efficiently, saving customers money.
there's an aspect to that that we're exploring, but yeah, there's definitely an opportunity there.
Absolutely. Larry, at PGE, your CEO, Maria Pope, just finished a year leading the Edison Electric Institute. Possibly her top external priority was really evangelizing about wildfire, working on legislation, working with other companies, developing a whole range of strategies. You personally have been on point on wildfire for probably what seems like most of your career. It hasn't been quite that long, been a long time. So how did a green and leafy and sometimes soggy electric company in Oregon become so focused on getting ahead of wildfire? As they said on Portlandia, could you put a bird on that for us, please?
Okay, well, we'll jump into that on the Portland side. And Bob, as you're describing in the 40 years, wildfire was not a big issue. It really wasn't until 2018. And 2018 for us, we sent some crews down to the Paradise Fire. And when they came back to the workplace, the stories that they told really resonated, and it really shocked people. And I have to admit, I was still a non-believer. Growing up in Montana, as you did, Bob, been through all of the Northwest, and Douglas firs, it's a wildfire. What's the big deal? And so we really didn't think about it until Labor Day of 2020. Labor Day of 2020, the winds changed, and I'll never forget seeing that Mount Hood, and we took out the transmission, we took out the distribution, and just as the LA County Fire Director here had just mentioned that you're the one that's going to get blamed for sending people into overtime, turning people's lights off, not going to be able to use their pumps against the water, their animals, what are they doing with, et cetera. So it was hard. It really, as a utility person, you don't feel comfortable with it. Yeah. And afterward, the Hoodland fire director there came up to us and said, "You saved Mount Hood." Because we looked at it afterward, and you saw all the trees down, the limbs and the lyres, and it would have been. We saw other parts of Oregon that were devastated, and just because we did that public safety power shutoff, we saved Mount Hood. So that was the turning point for me, and really what drove us as a company to start thinking differently.
I have a sister who's a very satisfied customer of yours, lives in the suburban areas. She was within a day of being evacuated, and her reaction, much like what we've talked about this morning, I'm in a house in a suburb, how can I possibly be at risk? And as we now know, buildings are fuel.
And if I added one thing to that, Bob, we have Forest Park, over a 5,000 acre piece of a park right next to the West Hills of Portland.
The largest
the most
park
beautiful,
in any city. It's stunning.
Yeah, beautiful homes, et cetera, with trees all around. And when I see that LA fire, that's what worries me.
Now, you are also doing a lot of technology deployment for multiple purposes in your system. Actually, we're going to be talking about that at another meeting on Thursday in Portland, but hopefully we can come back and spend some time on that. Paul, my relatively new best friend here in the fire community, your experience tells you that the climate is changing, whatever the cause is, but bringing more extreme weather, hotter and drier summers, contributing to increased fire threats across the country, even in areas that have not traditionally been wildfire prone. And my experience is there's no such thing as fire season, it's fire conditions. Certainly I think that's your lesson as well. So what tools for risk assessment and wildfire mitigation should utilities that maybe are not as far down the road be considering to get started?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it's something that we've discussed, last week as well. I've had the experience of working across California before I moved out to Colorado, and a lot of the times these wildfire events create a chain reaction where the utilities then have to do something. And I think it's really about getting ahead of that and being proactive. and actually starting to understand the fire conditions, as you say, and the fire weather that's inside your service territories. So for XL, we've got 8 states. It's different across all of them. And it really starts with building that, what I call a top-down model, where we understand the risk, we understand the potential economic losses, we understand the personal losses that can be impacted, and then start to do what we did. Pretty much everybody in here started life at a time where there wasn't phones. It was maps and compasses. So building those maps to understand where the risk resides inside your service territory based on conditions, based on proximity to populations, but then starting to get fourth dimensional and start thinking about that temporal component, which is exactly what you were saying about fire weather conditions, in that it's different at different points in the year, and understanding where that three-dimensional where comes into the fourth dimension of when. And that takes the tools, that takes a lot of investment, building out that situational awareness capability.
Great. Say a little bit about the cultural change that's necessary. Probably all of our safety programs started out of human performance and the nuclear industry. It strikes me that we have to really work with our people on the ground to think about fire safety right up with all the other things that they're responsible for, including getting the power back on and as quickly and safely as possible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, each one of us that works at a utility, utilities are now over 100 years old, and historically it's been about reliability and keeping the lights on. We're now looking at, well, in these particular conditions, the where and the when we have fire conditions available, critical fire weather, there's certain things that we shouldn't be doing, or if we're doing them in emergency purposes, then we have the mitigations on site, people that are prepared to respond to that. And what I mean by that is the kind of things that we're communicating to our crews with the tailboards every day that we have elevated fire weather. Are we going to be grinding? No, we're not. Not in a tier 3 area, not in elevated or extreme fire weather conditions. But if we're performing an emergency, do we have some kind of control or mitigation in the form of backpacks holding water, shovels to dig, and somebody as simple as a fire watch to watch the evolution and make sure that no spark or anything gets outside of that immediate containment.
Just the same as spending time getting to know the fire professionals, if you ever have the opportunity to go out with a utility crew, it's impressive. The people in the field, the journeymen, are extraordinary professionals. The tailboards that they start the day with, usually wrap the day with, the after-action reviews are really something. And these are the people who are on the front lines doing the work. In many cases, are going to be using the tools that you're developing. Andy, PSPS, you can't live with it, you can't live without it. It's a phrase that we didn't really even know a very short number of years ago. Let's spend a few minutes talking about, first of all, how your experience with PSPS has evolved over the years, what your lessons have been as you apply it, and then also I'd love to get some thoughts on how technology can perhaps improve it.
No, great. I think the first thing to say is, right, there's a gentleman in the audience, I think I see him right there, Dave Geyer. And San Diego Gas and Electric was the utility that really pushed public safety power shutoffs into the fray. This was before the commission had even thought about authorizing it or considering it. In fact, the Utility Commission in California objected to it and held it back. But San Diego Gas and Electric felt that it was something that when the weather got to a stage where we would be unable to suppress, the best thing to do would be to shut off the power. And so they started the utilities on that journey, and we have a debt of gratitude towards them. We felt it most commonly really coming out of the 2017 wine country fires, where we did not have a PSPS program at PG&E. We had heard about it, our executive team had discussed it, we were debating whether we should do it, but it's a very hard decision to decide and contradict how a utility operates. A utility operates to, basically keep reliability is almost a gospel. It's like a third rail. You're trying to make sure that your reliability is as good as possible. And you're doing it, in a context of safety and affordability. safety, when you put it first, says that when the conditions are such, you turn the power off. So developing that protocol takes time. For us, the journey started really in 2018. We had a PSPS program, so we put it in place after 2017. Unfortunately, in the high fire threat districts of California, we just went gradually into that space. And so on that fateful day when the campfire occurred, we had taken a PSPS, but we took it on the distribution side. These are the lower voltages, and we only took it in tier 3. Unfortunately, that transmission tower was in tier 2, and it was transmission. And taking power out for transmission is a very coordinated effort because it affects a massive number of customers. Well, after the campfire, we went all in, and even though we didn't have the tools, in 2019, we took one of the largest PSPS events in the history of the electric industry. I mean, we shut off more than 1 million customers. But we did that because we didn't have the technologies, all the pieces in place to figure how to narrow that down. But what are the technologies? You need the weather stations, you need the weather modeling. You need to build that capability up internally to send the signals to your customers. You've got to have your IT systems behind you. You've got to have your devices on your lines, this all SCADA controlled, so you don't have people out there turning off power with the switches. Because what you want to do is you want to turn the power off as close to, but not too close, to when the weather is going to get bad. And then you want to patrol the lines right after that when the weather passes, so that if you can check. And all the utilities do that. We patrol the entire line to make sure that there's no vegetation, there's no dangerous conditions. Because once you turn the power off, the only signal you're getting is by actually putting eyes on that line. And so we were able to narrow this down really by just better and better meteorological forecasts. And now the technology that I mentioned, where it's continuous monitoring, because if you can know what's happening even when the lights are out, of what's happened, what events have happened, you're able to go directly to that location to patrol faster and restore faster, in a sense. So that's how technology is kind of helping us get narrowed. We've taken 4 PSPS events this year. All of them actually have involved transmission, but the total number of customers has been very, very small because they're small time places in which we've taken them this year.
So technology has helped you both limit the duration and the geographic scope.
Exactly.
What are your experiences with PSPS? Actually, before you answer that, shockingly, we're almost out of time, and this is a very tight ship. I am going to ask each of you in just a few moments as we wrap up, to tell us what technologies you are the most excited about, and/or give any advice to the Red Skies crew here as to what we need to be working at. But let's stay with PSPS for a minute and hear your experiences.
Well, real quick on the PSPS, I'll just say that it is the most economic, cheapest way to, without technology. Yeah. And as you point out, Andy, trying to isolate to smaller and smaller areas as much as possible. But what I would say about the technology today is we are able to take a lot of disparate information. It comes into us through satellite, it comes into us through GIS, it comes into us through LiDAR or spectral scans or crews driving by and asset information, bringing it together and then thinking about what are the best options to solve that particular location. So do I need to cut back the vegetation more in this area? Or is it really tree wire, steel poles, or is it undergrounding? Making the best decisions on each span of wire, if you want to think of it that way. That's what AI is bringing to us now.
Great. Paul, just a word or two about how the insurance companies, credit ratings agencies are thinking about PSPS and wildfire planning. I know you are all spending more time with those good people than you ever thought you would when you started your career.
Yeah, absolutely. And PSPS might be the tool of last resort, but it's probably one of the tools that the utilities need to start learning how to execute effectively very, very early in this journey. Xcel Energy executed a PSPS in 2024. Was it necessary? Absolutely. Was it well executed? Probably not. And you'll get that feedback from your regulator and your customers, very similar to what we saw in California 2019. But we have executed PSPS 3 times in Texas and New Mexico in 2025. We've stood up 5, we executed 3. And we made it more surgical, which is a word that we've tended to use. So PSPS is always going to be there, but it's about how surgical you can implement it to minimize that customer impact. And then again, we respond as utilities. We're responsible to our customers. We're responsible to our regulators. But we're also responsible to the equity markets and the credit rating agencies. And then, unfortunately, we're all buying insurance products as well. So having that PSPS program in your toolbox is something that the markets, the ratings agencies, and the insurance markets are all expecting of utilities. So it's something that we got to develop and practice regularly.
So I'd like to hear just a few words about the regulatory side. Great news, NARUC, National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners, has taken this on as a big, big priority. They'll be releasing the first several chapters of a major report study they're doing on wildfire next week at their meeting in Seattle. But they and all of you are also concerned about, you name it, affordability, getting to be more and more of a concern, resilience, security, decarbonization still in a great many states, but also meeting this really unforeseen surge. How do you balance all those things and stay focused, moving ahead on wildfire?
Yeah, I want to throw in real quickly, and that's why I think this summit is about. Communities coming together. It's not any individual. It's not the community it just by itself. It's not the utility by itself. It's not the homeowner by themselves. But I think the combination here we're starting to get to, and how do we put things into practice. And I think Lake Tahoe was a great example of that. How do we get to a better situation with the homes in the most, I'll say the riskiest locations?
Yeah, no, what I'd say very briefly is that when you think about this, that's really understanding and monitoring the effectiveness of all the mitigations that society is putting as a whole. The utilities are measuring it, but I think as we measure it across the board, because every instance allows us to learn, and we need that flexibility and that courage actually to adapt and move away from something that that we thought was good. But now we realize with the additional data and the additional examples, how do you move to something that's better and stop what was an accepted science before?
Yeah, and just to finish on that, affordability is one of the cornerstones of any utilities operations. And building out these programs that can demonstrate benefits to various natural weather events, whether it be ice storms, whether it be windstorms or wildfire events. And the interesting thing is, back to your question about the regulatory perspective, we talk about it in the industry as the risk-spend efficiency, which is effectively a cost-benefit analysis. And whether we do it proactively or by direction by a regulator, it's something that's being asked of us by the regulators and the interveners in these various rate cases because they're seeing that impact on the share of wallet or the affordability cost. So programs that can solve multiple problems, as Andy talked about, sectionalization helps with our reliability metrics. It also helps with the execution of a PSPS program.
So before the trap door opens, lightning round, what technology are you most excited about, and what do you want to leave Team Red Sky with?
I think the technology I'm most excited about is just the further utilization of data. We're seeing the use cases for machine learning and AI in a huge way.
You know, I liked where Michael Warwick talked about in the past. It was, PSPS and a wildfire mitigation plan. Utilities have to have it. This morning it was backyards. And it was, how do we think about fire to help the forest? And what I would say is, does it have to be a fire?
Technologies for me is about having better information up front of a potential event, and then getting those customers back on quicker through leveraging technologies such as drones, aviation assets, etc. Just to what you were saying there, I mean, one of the things to take away from this is we're not alone. There's a lot of different partners here. I have the privilege of coming from the nuclear industry where we share information, and that's something the utilities are doing. And again, how we got together last week on the Northeast.
So please join me in thanking three great industry leaders and dedicated public servants.